All right, let's talk more about Takeoff's death and violence in the hip-hop community. We're joined now by A.D. Carson, assistant professor of hip-hop at the University of Virginia. He's also a rapper who's written several articles about hip-hop and its impact around the world. Thank you so much for joining us today, this morning. Wish it was under better circumstances, obviously. But Takeoff is just the latest rapper to be gunned down. Over the last few years, we've lost a lot of other high-profile rap artists to gun violence, like PNB Rock, most recently Young Dolph, Pop Smoke, and Nipsey Hussle, just to name a few. What factors would you say are contributing to this apparent rise in deaths among hip-hop artists in particular, and young hip-hop artists at that?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for having me. I think that it's probably important for us to kind of scale out and think about the fact that this weekend, along with the killing of Takeoff, which is incredibly tragic, that we also had, I believe the Washington Post reported, 9 mass shootings, including a drive-by on a park in Chicago. And so I think that the way that these tragedies around rappers are framed make it seem as if a particular thing is happening in hip-hop culture or within like subcultures, but it's an epidemic of violence in America that we're all being affected by. And I think that it feels more profound because the rappers who pass away, some of them, as Takeoff is, are incredibly influential and popular. And so on the other side of that really spectacular story about a really famous rapper dying, you have children being terrorized while they're out trying to trick or treat. And so that's part of the conversation as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it was really interesting, I mean, just over the last 24 hours or so, to see people within hip-hop, you know, reaching out, obviously talking about his death. Master P, for example, hip-hop is dying too young. And I think that that is what really resonates, especially with Takeoff just being 28 years old. What do you think needs to change about the conversation of the culture within hip-hop? Because I do think that there is that disconnect where people say, okay, well, if all you rap about is guns, violence, women, and mistreating women and all that, then what do you expect to happen? But I don't necessarily think that that is, I think that's a lazy way to look at things. What do you think needs to happen?
That we need to have, I think that we, like, number one, we need to start seeing rappers as full people, as people with full lives aside from their careers as rappers, you know, young men and women who are brothers, sisters, nieces, nephews, you know, uncles, aunties, you know, like all of these ways that they might fit into the communities that they are part of. And the reason that I say we need to humanize rappers is because a lot of times when we think about a rapper who's killed violently, unfortunately, it seems to confirm some of these deeply held cultural beliefs that we have about black folks and about hip hop culture particularly, that it is overly violent, overly bad. And so in a strange way, when a person like PNB Rock is killed, a person like Takeoff is killed, a lot of our framing puts us in the position of asking what should Takeoff have done to not be murdered, rather than focusing on the accountability and the issue that is the violence that, you know, like gun violence that is happening across the country, and particularly to rap artists.
An argument that I've seen just, you know, on social media just since in the wake of Takeoff's death is you don't see something like this happen amongst country artists who are gathered around to play poker. You don't see this in other spaces. So what is your reaction to that?
Yeah, but you see it at parks where children are trick-or-treating, and you see it at elementary schools where children are taking classes, you know, where they're going to school. You see it, you know, like at parades. And so I think that I think it's misguided because, like, gun violence is happening all across this country in all kinds of places where people don't expect it. People are going to the grocery store to just shop, and then, like, folks come and open fire. And so I mean, I get it. I totally understand the way that this is really easy to blame rap and to blame rappers for the things that are going on because of what's in the music. But even, you know, like where you have a film that's being shot and a person dies of an accidental gunshot where there's an actual gun as a prop being used in the film, and no one blames film for being too violent or having guns represented in those films. And so I just think that that's misplaced energy. And it almost seems as if people are accusing the rappers who are killed of their own deaths. And again, I think that we do need to talk about the plague of gun violence across the country. I just think that we need to be careful and not make it exceptional within hip hop, because gun violence in this country, anywhere in this country, is not exceptional. It seems like it's the rule. It seems like anywhere you go, you might be shot by somebody who decides they want to open fire on folk.
Right. A.D. Carson, thank you so much for joining us. Assistant Professor of Hip Hop at the University of Virginia and contributing writer for the nonprofit media website, The Conversation. Thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation with us. It's an important one.